The WrestleBread Podcast, bringing you the latest news, recaps, and analysis of AEW and WWE. Get the unique perspective from a wrestling fan of over 25 years. Here's your host, Jaydee.
What's going on, guys? This is Jaydee, and this is episode 123 of the WrestleBread Podcast. So it has been a crazy week in wrestling. First off, one of the craziest weekends we had. Let's just say, I haven't seen this much excitement for wrestling since, like, as far as anticipating excitement, probably since Kofi Mania, and maybe something after that, but definitely it's an awesome time right now to be a fan. Also, first of all, I did watch the trailer for that new Spider-Man, and I cannot wait. I'll admit I wasn't a Marvel fan growing up. I was introduced to Batman very early on in life and kind of stuck to that. And I did watch the Spider-Man 90s cartoons, but it really didn't draw me in. And I really didn't get drawn into like Spider-Man or like more of the Marvel universe until the Tobey Maguire movies. So it's been like, it's one of like the best times right now. Like, it still blows my mind that the Marvel universe, it's like all these movies integrate into each other and it's a continuous storyline. I don't think it's something that's really ever been done in cinema history for this many movies to tie up through one storyline with different writers and different directors and stuff like that. It's just a crazy time, and I cannot wait till December to see what happens with the rest of the movie. But getting into what happened this weekend, like I said, one of the most anticipated returns with CM Punk, and it was people out there who were, doubting if he was actually going to return. Like I said, it's pretty ballsy for them to drop this many hints for him not to turn up. I would like to think that, Tony Khan and powers to be over in AEW are a lot smarter than that. That you don't go into Chicago with a bunch of hints and not deliver. But I'll get into that a little bit. I didn't really get into a lot of rumors as far as this week, but the release date for WWE 2K22 is coming out in March. Normally it comes out, I think, September, October, or something like that. But this year it's been pushed back probably another 6 months. Probably because the big question is who is still going to be on the roster at that point. I mean, people are being let go from WWE like flies. It's like Survivor Island out here. So it's just like who's going to remain? Who's going to still be around when the game actually drops? It's going to be a lot more creative characters and legends that's going to be on this roster, especially if this supposed rumor of changes with NXT is true. If they're going to, have NXT to be this young, big guy roster, that means there are a lot more cuts coming. So it's going to be a very interesting roster come March. I'm sure that it's going to be a lot of updates when the game gets released, because who knows what's going to happen. Who knows who's going to get wiped from the game. And yeah. So first of all, let's just get into the big thing. And that's what happened to start off the crazy weekend that happened this past weekend, which was the return of CM Punk. I do appreciate the fact that they started off the show with him versus waiting to the end. I thought that was something they were going to do, that he was going to like come out towards the end, you know, pop in, say hi, and then, you know, fade to black. So I appreciate the fact that they started the show with him. That way the crowd wouldn't sit there and be chanting CM Punk throughout the whole show. He comes out. Of course, it's Chicago, so they're going absolutely crazy. I love it when it was like so emotional. It was, you know, it was people crying. You can tell he genuinely like felt the love, because of course it's his hometown. They were chanting. They were very loud. It was a crazy moment, and it's one of those moments that a lot of wrestling fans are going to remember for a very, very long time. He gets into the ring. Well, first he jumped into the crowd, which was crazy. He started hugging people. He gets into the ring, and they cut to commercial, which was very smart. So that when he goes to talk, it's, you know, we're not being broken up with a commercial or a picture-in-picture that AEW likes to do. He spoke to the crowd. He mentioned how he left wrestling in 2005 and now he's back. And he mentioned the reason why he is back, because there's a lot of young talent in the locker room. There is some old scores that needs to be settled. And then he calls out Darby Allen. Darby Allen was there in the Raptors with Papa Sting. And, you know, he calls out Darby Allen. He says, you know, I like you, you know, you jump out of airplanes and things like that. And you like to live dangerously. And he said there's nothing more dangerous than getting into the ring with CM Punk. And he said nothing more dangerous than fighting CM Punk in Chicago. So we're setting up the match at All Out, CM Punk versus Darby Allen, which was expected by a lot of people. I knew it was going to happen. I didn't expect it to be the first match for CM Punk. He mentioned that he is back, and he also gave out free ice cream bars to the Chicago crowd, which was a really nice touch. It was a thank you that he did to everyone for, you know, chanting his name and being patient for 7 years and stuff. People was going like bat crazy. I felt the goosebumps. I watched the video of his return like so many times, because it was just, I would say that type of a return was perfect. The way that the crowd reacted to him, the way that, you know, they chanted his name and everything. I mean, you can't get a much better return than that. So then Rampage goes on. We saw Jon Moxley versus Daniel Garcia in the main event. We saw Jade Cargill versus Kiera Hogan, and that was a bit of a squash match. We also saw Jurassic Express versus Private Party as well. And then we get to Dynamite. I'm going to jump ahead. I'll talk about all the WWE stuff in a little bit. So then we get to Dynamite. And CM Punk was scheduled to be there as well. And they didn't open it up with him. That was about midway through. We had Orange Cassidy versus Matt Hardy. Chris Jericho was supposed to address his future. So it felt like it was a bit of a tease as far as if he was going to retire. Come to find out, he's going to fight MJF one more time, which is like, okay. He mentioned that if MJF defeats him, then he'll go over to the commentary table and never wrestle in AEW again. I thought he was going to say, you know, never, he's going to leave AEW, but he's like, no, I'm staying AEW. I'm just going to be on the commentary table. We also had the Lucha Bros versus the Varsity Blondes. I love the Lucha Brothers. I wish that they get the tag team titles already. We saw Red Velvet versus Jamie Hayter, which was it wasn't a good match. It was a bit of botching. Like I said, with the women's division, they only have the one match that they can do on AEW Dynamite, apparently. And, you know, when you only have the one shot to display your female talent, and this is what you present, is kind of a bit of a letdown. Red Velvet, I like Red Velvet. She has gotten a lot better. Jamie looks, she looks like a star. But it was just like, I don't know what it was. But there was a botched moonsault. It seemed like there was like not really straight communication. Don't know if they were rushed for time or something like that, so they had to kind of like go on the fly, but it always feels a bit disjointed when it comes to some of the women's matches in AEW. Britt Baker was there. Of course, she's over, but you have to, you got to work on the other women in your division too. And then we get to CM Punk Dynamite debut. He mentioned how he is no longer the voice of the voiceless because AEW has a voice and the people in the back listen. He mentioned, he was asked what brought him back to wrestling after, 7 years, everybody and their mama asking him to come back. He decides to come back to AEW. And he mentioned the younger stars in the locker room. He mentioned Jungle Boy, Brian Pillman Jr., Rey Fenix. He also mentioned Penta and many others. And he started asking himself if he can still go. And the only way he can do that is if, going up against the younger talent. So then there was a yes chant that started to break out. And he said that is someone else's shtick, and you're going to have to be a little bit more patient for that, which people went crazy. So Daniel Bryan to AEW confirmed. Woo, woo, woo. But yeah, it was that was a fiery promo. We also had the trios match. It was Darby Allen. Speaking of, Darby Allen coming right out after that. Jon Moxley, Eddie Kingston versus Ryan Nemeth, Sars Bononi, and Jaydee Drake. And then Christian Cage, we had a segment with Christian Cage and Kenny Omega after that. And then we had the Gun Club versus the Factory, which was, it was mainly showing off the storyline between QT Marshall and the Big Show, which will eventually happen. And then the main event was Malachi Black versus Brock Anderson. So I kind of went through that really quickly because, to connect these two shows. So the thing with what is going on with AEW, I think people are forgetting that, first of all, AEW is less than 3 years old. The promotion started in 2019. And yes, while it has done a hell of a job to be a wrestling company of 2 years old and to acquire such big names, have a TV show, pay-per-views, and their numbers are up there. They had higher numbers than NXT. I think people have, their expectations probably a little too high for this company. Well, yes, it is cool because it's anti-WWE to be, all elite and everything like that. People just need to realize you got to slow down a bit. We're only in year 2 and the company went through a pandemic without fans. And so I was seeing people, apparently I guess they figured with, CM Punk coming to AEW that, AEW was going to skyrocket or something like that. And I saw people saying how, the Dynamite was really bad and Rampage, stuff like that. And it's like, well, of course, it's CM Punk. CM Punk returning is the biggest story of the decade. I can honestly say the past 10 years is the biggest story. And well, no, he's been out 7 years. So that'll make no sense. But no, it's the biggest story right now. And it's going to be the biggest story for a little bit of CM Punk returning to wrestling. That's going to overshadow anything. Even if he were to come back to WWE, it'll be the same issue pretty much. The big story will be CM Punk coming back to wrestling. And then when you're at the top of the mountain, it's going to go down from there. So no, Rampage wasn't like A+. Dynamite wasn't like an A+ show. But CM Punk can't go against the whole roster. He can only have one feud at a time. He can't be, without the whole hour of Dynamite. And I think because of CM Punk coming to AEW, a lot of people had such a high expectation, like, oh, it's going to like just snap in 1 second. No, that's not how it works. To make the comparison, when Tom Brady started with the Patriots, it didn't happen right away. It's going to take time for AEW, especially, once they get Daniel Bryan and a lot of other people, it's going to take time. This is a company who, the owner was in football, and, NFL had an off season. So this is a company who's learning not only about putting on a wrestling show, but putting on a weekly show with storylines and things like that. They found an identity pretty quickly, which I applaud. It's just that they got to flesh out everything. Like I said, they went through a pandemic, almost a year without fans. And, they got to get their bearings. WWE took a lot of talent. I don't think people realize how much talent WWE has swept up with NXT. And then when AEW had started, they were taking talent as well. So just give it time, especially with the women's division. The WWE has one of the best women's division because of NXT, and then they're all going up to the main roster. You also have NWA as well, and then the women over in New Japan as well. So not saying that the women that are left out there aren't talented, is that they don't have a lot of exposure, performing in front of a massive crowd, having to deal with TV and, live TV on top of that. So, sometimes the nerves get to them. So I'm a little bit more forgiving. I'm not trying to be like an apologist for AEW. I'm a little more forgiving of what AEW is doing versus WWE, who has been in the business for over 30 years. So I know people like kind of make, well, how come you don't be like this with WWE versus AEW? We're talking about a wrestling company that's 2 years old. Yeah, I mean, 2 years old, and they rose up pretty quickly with the TV deal, and now they have a second show as well, the pay-per-view, stuff like that, and now they have one of the biggest names in the free agency. I'm a little more forgiving of what they're doing than, WWE, who's been in the business for 30 years plus, and who's been like the mountain for a long time before other indie wrestling companies started to really come up and, start to take stand, in the pond of wrestling. So I say all that to say, just don't have, straight up expectations for perfection when it comes to Dynamite and Rampage. No, this show isn't going to be very exciting. They've done pretty well with their pay-per-views. I have to say their All Out card is pretty stacked, and they seem to be aware of some of their issues. But just give it time. Just give it time. I mean, how long was WWE in the business before the Attitude Era happened? Everybody talks about the Attitude Era. They forget the hell that it was with WWE before it became, the Attitude Era. I remembered watching one of the hottest feuds in the 90s before they really started to catch on was Jerry the King Lawler versus Doink the Clown. True story. I think it was Survivor Series where it was Doink the Clown and his dinks, and then Jerry the King Lawler, and it was little people that was dressed up like Jerry the King Lawler. So just give it time. Not saying, give it 30 years or 10 years, or maybe not even 5 years. I think probably in another 2 to 3 years, as long as, another shutdown doesn't happen, I think they'll be a lot better. They have people from WWE who could definitely kind of give pointers, as far as booking, or it feels like wrestlers have a bit of a say-so, and that Tony Khan seems like he's willing to take feedback. I don't know. I'm not backstage, but I'm just going to make that assumption right then and there. But, I say give it time. Give it time. Now, I will say, though, them ending with the main event of Malachi Black versus Brock Lesnar, Brock Anderson, wasn't really the best of choices, because normally in the main event, you want to leave it on a bang. And while I thought that Malachi Black was going to completely destroy Brock Anderson, didn't really seem like it. And when he starts attacking Brock Anderson, you would think that a big name would come out. Not saying it's not a big name, but, Lee Johnson comes out and the crowd didn't really get all chaotic and stuff. And then on top of that, the crowd, I think they were in Milwaukee. The crowd only really popped when CM Punk came out. It's really a shame. And I knew this was going to happen when they were in Chicago, and how loud Chicago can be, and the chants is all perfect and stuff like that. Anytime you go from one big wrestling town to a different city, the crowd comparison, it goes down. Milwaukee, bless their heart, they did the CM Punk chant correctly. They got the yes chant together. But then there was a few times where they were trying to chant and there were duo chants. You couldn't really hear what they were trying to say and stuff like that. There were times where they were completely silent. So, when they go back, the week that they go into Chicago will probably be one of the most hyped weeks, mainly because of the crowd. And the crowd does make or break a wrestling show. If a show is crappy, but the crowd is popping and stuff like that and being crazy, it definitely makes it. That's why Raw after Mania is considered one of the best Raws of the year, because the crowd, they cater to the crowd for once. And they try to put on the best matches, the biggest surprise appearances and stuff like that. It's because they play up to the crowd. But yeah, I wouldn't have put Malachi Black versus Brock Anderson as the main event like that. I may have done the tag team match between the Varsity Blondes and the Lucha Bros, because it had a lot more entertainment. Or even maybe CM Punk ending the show, because I don't think you wouldn't have to worry about Milwaukee chanting CM Punk throughout the whole show, and causing chaos. But yeah, I definitely wouldn't have ended it with that. I kind of like this storyline that they're doing with Cage and Omega, that they brought into the fact that Don Callis had actually hired Christian Cage and then fired him the next day, and how Callis kind of groomed Kenny Omega from 10 years old and stuff like that. Kind of make it different, because there is going to be a bit of a void at All Out with Omega no longer going against Hangman Page. We'll see what develops from there, but I do like the story that is cultivating there. But yeah, people just need to be a little more forgiving with AEW. The company is just starting. I mean, people were more patient with NXT when it first started as well. I mean, I may be lying, but at least that's what I think happened. So with CM Punk returning, people of course started going crazy, talking about some WWE is going down and all this other stuff, which isn't true. I mean, WWE's demise is on its own. Once they turned into a publicly traded company and decided to put on, concentrate more on presentation than wrestling talent, that's their downfall. I wasn't sitting there. I wasn't sitting there WWE is going to go down because they got CM Punk and stuff like that. No, but I'm hoping that, with competition, the product gets better. And the only thing that benefits from, when this happens is the fans, because both companies are going to try to one up each other. And when that happens, that means we get the surprise debuts, the good matches, the moments to try to get the fans to pop and stuff like that. Now, getting into SummerSlam, because after CM Punk appeared and everything like that, another interesting thing too that happened. A lot of people started talking about CM Punk now, which I thought was weird with WWE, because the fact that they completely ignore the name CM Punk for so many years, like every time he gets chanted, they try to mute the crowd. I mean, they literally did it the Monday Night Raw that was in Chicago. They muted the hell out of Chicago, which I kind of figured was going to happen. But yeah, anytime that the fans got mad in WWE and they start chanting CM Punk, they'll mute it. You know, they will acknowledge that CM Punk worked for them, but they're not going to like openly really talk about it. I mean, anytime they mentioned CM Punk or anything like that, it was, you know, you go like, oh wow, they mentioned CM Punk. So, you know, the fact that all of a sudden everybody got an opinion about CM Punk over in WWE and mentioning how he wasn't over and he wasn't, he wasn't number one and stuff. And then we had the summer of Cena. And then I noticed the shirt that John Cena has is a very similar design to what's in Pro Wrestling Tees that CM Punk had used. It's the Super Mario 3 look. And I know the Young Bucks had used it and a bunch of other people had used it, but I just really thought it was weird that that's what you're doing with John Cena. John Cena normally has the shirts that says, you know, the motivational phrases, you know, hustle, loyalty, and respect, and the champ is here, and you can't see me, and all the other stuff. It's normally words. It's not that often that we get, you know, a video game type of look on John Cena. Because the only thing that, you know, is really connecting John Cena to a video game is the WWE 2K series. I mean, I could, you know, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I've seen John Cena with a controller in his hand. Not either CM Punk either, but I just found that weird that they did that shirt design. And then they did the whole NFT thing with John Cena, which I checked. Only like 10, maybe 15 people brought it out of 500 that they were trying to sell. The shirt was cool. I like Super Mario Bros. 3, so I thought the shirt was a cool design, but not for no $500. I barely want to pay $25 for a t-shirt. That's why I don't have a lot of wrestling t-shirts. I'll buy t-shirts when it goes on sale because I'm a bit of a cheapo. But, you know, going into SummerSlam, you know, everybody was looking for the answer as to what WWE is going to do with the return of CM Punk. Of course, people were, mentioning that they're going to bring back bring back Brock Lesnar. You know, we're going to see Becky Lynch. We're going to see this. We're going to see that. And it's pretty much what we got. But, however, the way that the things went. So, let me get into the recap of SummerSlam. So, starting off, we had on the pre-show, we had Big E versus Baron Corbin. This was all about the fact that Baron Corbin felt as though he can get more money if he had gotten the briefcase. And so he took the briefcase from Big E, and it felt like that's what they were wrestling for. I mean, Baron Corbin, I guess, felt as though that he could take the briefcase and cash it in, which, seeing as though that John Cena took a contract and signed his name and successfully got a championship match, I don't see why Baron Corbin, wouldn't think that way. In the end, Big E won, and he got his briefcase back. After that, we had the Raw Tag Team Championship to start off the show. AJ Styles and Omos versus RK Bro. Someone had a sign that said, "Randy, let's get naked," which I thought was a pretty funny sign. Now, this match was good, but oh my gosh. I really hope that AJ Styles is not teamed up with Omos. Omos has gotten better, but they still want him to be like this big guy. Kind of like, oh my gosh. I wouldn't say Hulk, but very like, me big guy, I slam you and I choke slam you. Like, it's not like very smooth with his wrestling style. Like, he does a choke slam and then he stops and pauses and stuff like that. It's like one move every couple of minutes, and sometimes it works, opposite attracts sometimes works. And they really tried, but I haven't felt bored with AJ Styles until he like got into this tag team stuff. And I'm ready for AJ Styles to kind of be on his own again. And, we get the good matches and stuff like that. It just feels like they don't, I think I said this before, it feels like they don't know what to do with him. So they team him up with Omos. He can have a match with anyone. I mean, he put him versus John Cena, people put over as a good match and a good feud. And yeah, John Cena has good feuds, but we all know John Cena is not known for being good in the ring. But I just really want AJ Styles to be on his own, and I really miss AJ Styles on his own, but it just feels like it's not happening. The match was shorter than expected, but it is what it is. Because from the rumor, it was rumored that they were supposed to be done the show by 11. So I kind of figured they're squeezing, things in and not really giving a lot of time. So then after that, we had Eva Marie versus Alexa Bliss. And, the problem when it comes to having these monthly pay-per-views, it kind of like after a while, it feels like you're watching an elevated Raw or a SmackDown. Like, there's matches that you see and it's like, that could have been done on Raw or SmackDown. And I felt as though this was one of those matches. This match was also short as well. It really didn't do a lot when it came for as far as it really didn't do a lot for the feud between Eva Marie and Alexa Bliss. It does something with between Doudrop and Eva Marie, of course, after the loss, but I was expecting something. I was expecting Lily to like move or something like that. Because we've seen her wink, we've seen her stand up, we've seen her pop up with Shayna Baszler during that horror scene on Raw a few months ago. And so I was expecting, this is SummerSlam, this is one of the big 4 pay-per-views. I expected something a little bigger. And we really didn't get anything. We got Eva Marie grabbing Lily and then slapping the doll, and then she slapped Bliss with the doll. And Alexa Bliss, she goes crazy, goes off, and I thought that the match would end there. It felt like it was a good lead up to a finish, but it didn't end there, and it kind of went on for a little bit of time. Now, there was a sign that said Eva is worse than an airport tuna sandwich, and it was hard camera side. And even the commentators had mentioned it. I think it was the newer commentator. I think his name is John. I might be completely wrong. He started to read it, and then it got very quiet on the commentary table. So I figured they probably got in trouble for reading the sign. I did hear that there was this big Bray Wyatt sign. It was the Raiders logo, and they put Bray Wyatt on there, and it said I don't know if it said Yowie Wowie or Bray Wyatt or something like that, but it was on the hard side camera. They apparently panned away from it, and then someone, of course, went to grab the sign. The person was very upset, wasn't willing to give up the sign, but eventually they did. So we got that going. But yeah, this match, it really didn't do anything as far as, a big pay-per-view type feel. Like I said, I felt that the doll should have did something. We done seen her do so much stuff on Raw, and now it comes for, the big pay-per-view, and she did nothing. I felt as though this match could have definitely went on an episode of Raw. After that, we get the match between Sheamus and Damian Priest. There was the spot where Damian Priest did a move to the outside and he almost lost his neck, but it looked like he maybe had hurt his hip or his lower back. And I don't know if that was, if he was okay or if he was really hurt, but they still kind of played up to it. It was a lot of back and forth with Sheamus and Damian Priest. There was a springboard kick that Damian Priest tried to do, but Sheamus had countered it with a knee to the face. Then towards the end of the match, Sheamus had Damian Priest, I think it was in a heel lock or something like that. And then he ripped the mask off of Sheamus' face and started striking Sheamus. And then from there, Priest hit the finisher for the win. This was a good match, something for the United States Championship. Maybe we will see from there the title. We'll see other unique matches or something like that with Damian Priest. I'm kind of, happy that he is slowly moving away from The Miz and Morrison. It felt like they really didn't have nothing for him to do except for to continuously feud with those two. And I'm hoping that maybe they'll use this opportunity to bring in, younger talent, Humberto, for example, against Damian Priest, maybe put Ricochet in it and kind of use the younger talent, especially the NXT people, to kind of bring up some new feuds or something like that. I like Sheamus and everything, but it kept getting tiring of him constantly just beat up everyone. It really didn't do anything as far as the storyline with him. If he's actually seriously injured with the face on his face and stuff, maybe just give him a little bit of time off to kind of heal and come back, and then kind of go back to the drawing board of what it is that you're trying to do here. After that, we had the Mysterios versus the Usos. A lot of people was thinking that maybe there'll be a turn between the Mysterios. Truthfully, I mean, Dominic is going to have to do a lot to sell me on him being a heel. Because I don't think Ray has been an actual heel when he was in WWE. I may be completely wrong. I might be completely wrong, but he has been a face a big portion of his run in WWE. I know he was a heel in WCW, but I don't think Rey Mysterio was ever a heel in WWE. He's been a face this whole time. But, it feels like they may be turning Dominic on his dad. The child that is turning to a rebel or something like that. Who knows? But, this was a good match between the two teams. I'm still waiting for Uso versus Uso. I'm hoping that I don't know. I just want Uso versus Uso. I always say that, of course there is the exception with the Bellas, that normally when you have family or friends feuding against each other, it's really a good thing. And it could correlate. It could, go with the Mysterios as well. But if you're going to turn Dominic heel, he's really going to have to sell it. He's really going to have to sell it because he has such a baby face and he's smiley and stuff like that. I can't take him serious as a heel. And I really don't want it to be cringy like the Bellas. So I'm hoping that he's getting pointers from Edge or something like that. As far as how to pass it off as being a heel. And then we get to the confusing portion of the show. We had Shinsuke Nakamura come out with boos, and I'm like, okay, we're getting an impromptu, match. We're getting the IC title put on the line. Pat McAfee's going crazy, standing on top of the table, dancing and stuff like that. And it's like a full-on entrance. We get into the ring. Nakamura's doing his thing. Then he goes over to Pat McAfee and stuff like that. And then I think they cut to like a commercial or something like that. No, then after that, they cut to the video package of Bianca versus Sasha. And I'm like, okay, so Nakamura is just here on a cameo? Like somebody paid on Cameo for Nakamura to show up at SummerSlam or something? Like I was completely confused. And I'm saying like that wasn't needed. You could have definitely had an IC title done on the pay-per-view. I don't understand why it's a major pay-per-view. You don't want your IC title defended here. But then we get to the video package of Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks. One of the matches that a lot of people was looking for. Of course, there were the rumors that Sasha Banks may be injured. But, I was like, okay, they didn't mention on the pre-show that she's not there. That is happening. That's not happening, I mean. They're playing a video package of Bianca versus Sasha Banks, so maybe it's happening. So we get Bianca Belair to come out. And then they mentioned that Sasha Banks is unable to perform. And to face her was Carmella. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, this is something you can do on the December pay-per-view. Even like, because we know between SummerSlam and Royal Rumble is like the dead area where WWE just kind of like throw things together until they come back to the Royal Rumble. But I'm like, this is a big pay-per-view and you kind of let people down by playing the video package of someone who's not even able to perform. Especially like normally when, like, I think it was Asuka versus Nia Jax or something like that was supposed to happen at a pay-per-view. And they mentioned on the pre-show that the match was not happening. And, they let you know ahead of time. So I'm like, you could have easily just said, Sasha Banks is unable to perform or something like that. And then mentioned it on Carmella. But you, leave it to the crowd to, really react. So I'm like, okay. And I was like, I don't know why Carmella again. I'd rather had seen Zelina versus Bianca Belair. That would have been something a lot different. The crowd's all down. And then next thing you know, whoa, here comes Becky. And I'm like, okay, this is a great swerve. I literally applaud WWE for doing that. Because I was like, it's just like the men's Royal Rumble. They played with everyone's emotions by having Brock Lesnar being so dominant that when you get the swerve, or like when Drew McIntyre eliminated Brock Lesnar, we popped because you played effectively with the emotions of the fans that we played right into your hands. So for us being so upset that we're not getting Bianca versus Sasha, we're getting Bianca versus Carmella for the 20th time for some reason, and now we see Becky Lynch comes out. All right, great. We figured this was going to happen. They have to pull something out of the hat because of CM Punk's return. They need to get the fans talking about WWE for this weekend. So I'm like, all right, cool. She looks good and everything like that. I'm sitting here hype. I'm like, do it for the moms and all this other stuff. I'm like hype about it and stuff and everything like that. Because I have a shirt that says the mom. Actually, I also have a shirt that says Mom 316. And someone's like, did you get that made? And I was like, no, I brought it like this. I get a lot of compliments on that Mom 316 shirt. But anyway, so I'm like, okay, Becky's here and stuff like that. We're going to get a match between Bianca Belair versus Becky. So, of course, Becky attacks Carmella and stuff like that. Gets on the mic, mentions that she wants to face Bianca Belair. I thought it was a bit weird because I'm like, you gave up the Raw Women's title before you left. So I'm like, okay, but, Seth Rollins is on SmackDown. You want to keep the couples together. So, it is what it is. So I'm like, all right, cool. She presents the challenge. Everyone starts doing the yes chant. Bianca Belair's thinking and stuff. And I'm like, yes, let's get this going. This is going to be great and everything like that. And I'm still hype and everything. Bianca Belair accepts. I'm like, okay, cool. This is going to be great. This is going to be awesome. And then, Becky does the rock bottom, basically. And then 1, 2, 3 pin. And I'm sitting here like, yo, this match was shorter than Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar. And you see the air just get sucked out of the room. I don't know what was going on because Becky definitely posted all over social media that she's been working out and all this other stuff. And this, that, and the third. And I'm like, come on. Really? Like, we're going to pull. And I immediately went to Kofi Kingston. And like, I figured Becky Lynch would win the title because it's Becky Lynch. I figured that. But I at least thought we was going to get a match. I would have took a 5-minute match, at least have Bianca do some type of offense or something like that. Because a lot of people was like, well, maybe she got surprised, stuff like that. But I'm like, yeah, but from the time that Becky issued the challenge to Bianca Belair, accepting it was like a cool maybe 3 minutes or something like that. It took a while for the match to get going. So you had time to like game plan or something like that. So it's just like you kind of ruined the return because you build up Bianca Belair, and there's people who made the comparison. I know the comparison between I think it was Honky Tonk Man versus the Ultimate Warrior. It happened at a previous SummerSlam, or Sheamus versus Daniel Bryan. I forgot who else. That the quick matches to a major title change. And I will say this, I get it. I know this happens. I even had cheered for it. I forgot who it was that it happened to. Was it The Miz? I think it was, or something like that. It happened before, and I was all for it. There is a big difference between the heel getting, pinned in 6 seconds versus the underdog babyface getting pinned in 6 seconds. And, so with Bianca Belair, we had the rise to the top. We showed how strong she is in the matches leading up to the Royal Rumble. She had a very impressive Royal Rumble the first time around. I think she eliminated, I forgot how many people she eliminated, but it was a lot of eliminations. They showed how strong she was and everything like that. And that was the one that Rhea Ripley had won. So now we come back the following year, and she had a really good Royal Rumble. She eventually wins, she chooses Sasha Banks. Everyone is, gun-ho for this match between her and Sasha. And while the build for her and Sasha wasn't really that great, we all knew that it was going to be magic in the ring. And they played the whole underdog story with Bianca Belair because it's Sasha Banks, one of the 4 horsewomen, this, that, and the third. And they played the underdog, with it. And so we got the main, they were in the main event of night 1 of WrestleMania and everything like that. And she wins the title, and, it kind of gives, like, Daniel Bryan-ish underdog. And I'm not saying, like, as far as, like, the yes move or anything like that, but just the same feel of someone, of an underdog who, finally climbs up to the top and gets the title. And she defended the title and everything like that since WrestleMania. And then she gets defeated, and I think the whole match lasted for, like, maybe 20 seconds or something like that. And it's just like, there is such a big difference when it's an underdog, babyface that gets pinned. It kind of like makes the whole build mean nothing. And yeah, let it play out, let's see what happens. Maybe she'll turn heel or something like that. But then she gives a speech, at a live event about how, she was sad about what happened, and once she heard how the fans reacted, she started to believe in herself again, how she's the best, and the EST thing that she always says. And I'm like, well, that really doesn't sound like someone who's turning heel, especially if it's being said at a live show. So I'm like, okay, if they decide to turn her heel, there's, I don't know, it's just like a different way to do it. And I usually let the story play out. But, when you get something, that big that drives a reaction out of you, like you immediately react to it, of course. But then, of course, you start thinking about it. And I was like, okay, let's see how this plays out on SmackDown. SmackDown will tell us, how this is going to happen. Because we saw with Kofi Kingston, he lost the title and then he went off throwing pancakes after that. So we'll see if, Bianca Belair comes out and, ask for another title shot, or if they're going to turn this into, a feud or something like that. I'm not sure. But it's just kind of like mind blowing, because with the underdog thing, it's like you had the underdog story and you couldn't even like give it 5 minutes. I mean, we had people who are not good in the ring and they give people like good 5-10 minutes. So you could, I don't know, because people was like, well, maybe Becky wasn't, good enough to return or something like that. She didn't get the practice and stuff like that. And I was like, well, if that, like, I get you, if that's the case, you could have had, Bianca Belair versus Zelina. Maybe not Carmella, but you could have Bianca Belair versus Zelina. And then after the match, then you have Becky come out and then challenge and then win the title on that note. Kind of similar to what happened at WrestleMania 9 with Yokozuna, Bret Hart, and Hulk Hogan. You could have had something like that. And yeah, you probably would have been a little upset, but then you can explain it a lot more. Like, okay, Bianca Belair just went through a match, she was caught off guard, yada, yada, yada. You can do all that. But if you're prepared for a fight, and then you're prepared for Sasha Banks, and then they give you Carmella, and she's like, I trained for Sasha Banks, but I'm still going to take out my anger on you. Well, she didn't, exactly prepare to face Carmella. So she had to she had to sit there and game plan right away. So I don't know. It's just sometimes, with decision making with WWE, and I really hope there is a follow-up to it. I really hope there is. If there's not a follow-up to it, it's just going to be a shame. Because it also kind of hurt, what they did with Becky Lynch, because everyone's excited that Becky Lynch had returned. But the fact that, she returned and immediately won a title that she didn't technically lost, it just like hurts her. It just hurts the return as well. And WWE, sometimes they have these things where, they get the first answer right and then they get 10 things wrong and they sit there and like, but we got the first answer right? Like Becky's back. And it's like, yeah, but look at the whole thing. Look at the whole picture. So I'm hoping that maybe I'm completely wrong with this, that there is a follow-up, that maybe this is a lead to her turning heel as well. But, if it's a lead to her turning heel, it kind of leads the loose end of her versus Sasha Banks. But I'm really hoping that I'm completely wrong about this. And then after that, they brought out the gold medal winners, which the crowd really didn't react to. I know one of them, I don't know them, but I've definitely heard about Tamara Mensah Stock. She was very excited. She came off as a fan. And then there was Gable Stevenson, who I think is actually signed. I'm not 100% sure, but I know he was at an NXT event. And I think they signed him, or they want to sign him or something like that. He was like cool mo, but she was very excited about that. And I know she wants to be in WWE. She had mentioned it. I watched the show live when she mentioned it as well. But yeah, that segment, like, I get it. Like, they came out and everything like that. And then she was trying to get him to do a backflip, which he didn't want to do. And they kind of like cut the feed. So I was like, well, it whatever. And then on top of that, they decided, I guess they was trying to pull like WrestleMania stuff. They probably tried to get Cardi B, because they used their song to be on the show or something. They couldn't do it. So they have Mario Lopez and they have Tiffany Haddish, who was backstage interviewing people. And I'm sitting here like, I know you guys are on a time schedule, so y'all could have easily like took these segments out if you aren't really running on a lot of time. So after that, we had Drew McIntyre versus Jinder Mahal. It was okay. I thought this feud between these two would be a lot better than what it is. I don't know. It's just like, it wasn't a lot of intensity with these two. You would think that, two people who, worked with each other, I would think they were friends because they were in 3MB, that there'll be like, I guess chemistry in the ring. Like, I wasn't like drawn into the feud. It just wasn't really doing anything for me. The crowd really wasn't into it either. Unfortunately for them, they came after the situation with Bianca Belair. The crowd was really into that 3-2-1 countdown that Drew McIntyre does before he does the Claymore kick. But then he pinned Jinder Mahal, and then they gave him the golf clap. Like, no one really popped for him to win. Then Veer and Shanky comes to the ring to help out Jinder Mahal. And then you see Drew McIntyre grab his sword. And I'm like, dude, you're not doing anything with the sword. I don't know why. I get why it was introduced, but I don't know why he has it at the ring. Like, you're not doing anything. You're not doing anything with it. Like, you ain't even cut a rope. You didn't like stab the ring or something. You kind of, you point it and then you swing 5 minutes after the person leaves out the match. It is what it is. So then after that, we had, for the Raw Women's Championship, we had Nikki A.S.H. versus Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley. And I knew what was going to happen. Unfortunately, Nikki A.S.H. was the transitional champion to give Charlotte Flair another notch on the title reigns. I just don't get, though, why we did all that. I figured, okay, Nikki A.S.H., she's, there to appeal to the kids and stuff like that. But they really didn't have any shirts with her. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I took a marketing class, and sometimes with WWE they do some things, and I'm like, dude, you lost money. If you wanted Nikki A.S.H. to appeal to kids, first of all, we have the Marvel Universe going on. You could have easily sold fucking the superhero mask. You could have sold the superhero cape. You could have really done it up and like really appealed to kids with the superhero gimmick. Because, she was, during her entrances, she goes down the aisle and she like, hugs kids and like high fives and points and stuff like that. And I'm like, you could have been selling, the superhero masks. You could have been selling the capes and stuff like that. You could have definitely had the action figure. You could have did a t-shirt with the cape in the back. Like, I don't get why they didn't really do anything with her. And it's like, I don't know if her winning the briefcase was like a very last minute decision. And because it was a last minute decision, they really didn't have anything to like really, try to get money off of it. And so, cause she didn't have t-shirts while she was champion. I think there's t-shirts, like the only thing they had was the Nikki Cross t-shirts. And then they had, they were selling a plaque for when she won the Money in the Bank briefcase and when she won the title. But like, I don't think she still has shirts. She might now have shirts, which is a shame because, now she has shirts, but she's no longer champion. So it's like, you would think you would want to make the most money with a person when they are a champion and try to get the shirts. So that kind of tells me that her winning the briefcase was a last minute decision and they kind of like took it from there. But she could have easily sold a cape or a mask or something like that for her. And, sometimes it is what it is. But I knew that Charlotte Flair was going to win the title back. Charlotte Flair is at the point of life where she's kind of like doing what she wants. She has one foot out the door to join her dad and Andrade. Andrade is over at AEW. Her dad, it's rumored that he's going to go over to AEW, but, she loves that man, and she's a daddy's girl. So it's, I don't know. But I knew she was going to win the title. I didn't expect, I figured that Nikki A.S.H. was going to take the pin. She was put into the figure 8, and Nikki A.S.H. tapped pretty quickly after that, which I was a bit surprised about. I would think if you're trying to do this like almost superhero gimmick with her and she's the women's champion, that she will like fought a lot more, you know, make Charlotte earn that title win a lot more than just a few seconds in the figure 8. But it was a good match. It was a good match. Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley, they're good in the ring together, but it's just like the way that the whole thing got built is just like weird. But yeah. After that, we had Seth Rollins versus Edge. We had Seth Rollins in the Matador gear. We had, first of all, Edge coming out with the Brood entrance. So good. I love the Brood. I love the theme music. How can you not love that theme music? He came out with the Ring of Fire, which I thought was so cool. And then they lead on to his theme, and I'm like, I need that clip to play every day for the rest of my life. First of all, I love Edge's theme. I love the Brood theme. So them putting it together at the same time, I thought was pretty cool. And, you know, I figured this was going to be the match of the night because Seth Rollins is so good in the ring and Edge is Edge, of course. But this was a pretty good match. First of all, this was definitely match of the night. There was a lot of back and forth with these two. A lot of near falls with this. Definitely had you at the edge of your seat. Edge doing a spear through the ropes. There was a Seth Rollins tried to do a corkscrew moonsault and he missed, and Edge went and speared Seth Rollins. Edge doing the execution. There was a I think he did Christian's finisher as well, if I remember correctly. He towards the end, Edge did a crossface, and then he started slamming the head, and did another crossface, and Seth Rollins taps, which I really didn't expect to happen. I thought that Edge would win with a spear, but no, Seth Rollins actually tapped, which I was pretty surprised about. I actually had Seth Rollins winning because I figured that this feud would continue on because both men are very good in the ring. So I kind of figured that Seth Rollins would win and they would kind of continue on with the storyline between them two. But yeah, that was match of the night, definitely. And then we go on to this weird segment with The Miz and John Morrison wanting to, of course the word moist comes out because, somebody done told the creative team finally, discovered the word drip and went on with that. Then we had Xavier Woods, who had dressed up in the Razor Ramon gear. And first of all, the crowd was dead. I mean, like Walking Dead, zombie type of dead. I mean, the walkers in The Walking Dead made more noise than that crowd. First of all, at this time, it's 11 o'clock. I don't know why we had this segment. It's something that should have happened on the pre-show, or maybe even a lot earlier on the card, or maybe not at all, because this is a segment they could have easily done on Raw. But it's like, what's the point of this happening? Why is this happening? Why is it happening at 11 o'clock? I thought that you guys were supposed to be out of the building at a certain period of time, but apparently y'all have time to waste. And then I'm sitting here thinking, this is time that could have went to the Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair. Like, you could have gave a few more minutes to that match. But, instead we get these filler segments, which it just really felt like it's one of the things that I don't really like that Raw does, because it's 3 hours. It's like, we gotta fill in this time. What are we gonna do? Oh, let's just do this. and it doesn't really do anything. So then we get to the match of Goldberg versus Lashley. And I really expected Bobby Lashley to completely destroy Goldberg. First of all, Goldberg having, I guess it's the NXT rookies or something like that, as bodyguards. I don't get why he has bodyguards now. I mean, he's big. He's bigger than the people who are walking into the ring. And then it's a short walk. So I don't know how... It's a short walk. And I know... I kind of figured that the reason why it was done in WCW is so he has a police escort. So I guess either nobody attack him or so that he has a clear way to the ring. So if somebody wanted an autograph or something like that, the police officer would push him out the way. But the walk from that locker room he was in to the stage was literally 3 seconds. So I'm I get the nostalgia portion of it, but it's 2020. Let's come up with something slightly different. This match, oh my gosh, this match really wasn't that good. For the expectation, and I guess it's because we had high expectation. I really didn't expect this match to last long. This match lasted a lot longer than I thought it would be, but it was what it was. For it to be a championship match, it wasn't a good match at all. I mean, this was the second to last match on the card. You kind of want to build up towards the main event. And I feel like they kind of took the sucker way out with this. Goldberg wanting to have his kid watch him be champ one more time, even though the kid watched him be champ 3 years ago. I get you don't want your kid to YouTube and see why his dad was good, but you don't want your kid to see in 2021 you struggling to do a body slam. It's basic wrestling 101. Goldberg struggled to do a body slam. And it's not okay, it's all right, but he could have seriously injured Bobby Lashley. It was pretty scary because Bobby Lashley, he almost landed on his head. It's just like what happened with The Undertaker when he struggled to slam him, and he almost had Undertaker land on his head. The crowd was booing Goldberg. Lashley had went for the jackhammer, and then Goldberg went to do a reversal, but it felt like his leg had gave out or something like that. And then MVP went to hit Goldberg with the cane, and Goldberg had the 5-second delay because he wasn't on good network or something internet or something like that. Maybe he was on the Peacock special and he responded to the cane spot 5 seconds late. I forgot what spot it was that he suddenly started to hurt his leg, and he started to sell on the leg and stuff like that. And Bobby Lashley was, working a little more with the leg. They eventually went to the outside and stuff like that. I think the match lasted for 7 minutes or something like that at this point, total. I did time it. It was 7 minutes. I did time it because I was I figured the match was going to do 4 minutes or less. But kudos for it lasting more than the 5 minutes. But, we see why matches with Goldberg don't last over 5 minutes, because then it gets pretty scary. So Goldberg, he's working the leg and stuff like that. And then he goes to get up and he can't get up because his leg is hurt. And he goes to stand up and then he just drops down. And then the ref calls for the bell. And I'm really? We couldn't get Bobby Lashley to just completely destroy Goldberg or something like that. Then after the match, Bobby Lashley continues to attack Goldberg. And then, it's okay, who's coming to save Goldberg? Because we know how it gets set up. And I'm sitting here I hope we don't get the damn kid coming in here. And I kind of figured it was going to happen because it was set up that he's going to get involved when when Bobby Lashley and MVP got into his face a few weeks ago on Raw. And I'm like, the kid is going to come in here. And so here he comes in all his high school glory, jumps on Bobby Lashley's back, and then gets put into a hurt lock. And he wasn't put into the hurt lock for that long. I don't think Bobby Lashley even got his fingers locked or anything like that. Then MVP, of course, had to do some damage control because the stockholders were watching. He was like, there was no way to tell that Bobby Lashley knew that was Goldberg's son. We would never attack a minor. It was almost like an attorney almost. We would never attack a minor. There's no way that he could have told it was by Goldberg's son and stuff like that. And Goldberg, of course, was like, what? And he went over to his son. And then his son miraculously was good. I mean, the son didn't even try to sell the fact that he was in the hurt lock. But I guess since the hands really didn't interlock and it didn't last that long, that you could recover a little bit more easier. And so with the way this ended, I'm like, oh, great. Because the crowd wouldn't cheer for Goldberg to win, you're going to do this over in Saudi. So that's what's going to happen. Let's all just take it in right now that we're not going to see Bobby Lashley completely destroy Goldberg. That Goldberg will suddenly, for the kid, all for the son, he's going to win the title over there. That crowd's going to cheer for it. I have nothing against the crowd. They'll cheer. They cheer exactly the way that WWE wants fans to cheer. They want fans to cheer specifically for the face and boo the heel. And that's what Vince wants. He just wants fans to cheer for the face and boo the heel. Boo the heel. And because we all like Bobby Lashley, we don't deserve that chance. And of course, they did play they played a commercial for Saudi too. I think it was after Becky and Bianca Belair, and they were showing some of the women that was in the they were showing some of the women during the commercial too. Because allegedly, the Queen of the Ring finals is going to happen over there, and apparently the King of the Ring finals is going to happen over there, which I said it before, it's a slap in the face to a lot of the fans in America because, I love the King of the Ring. And for the Queen of the Ring to happen for the first time and for the finals to happen over there, like, you haven't brought WrestleMania or even a big pay-per-view back to the UK. I wish that there's a WrestleMania overseas because those internationals are crazy and they come over here with the chances and everything like that. And they bring so much excitement whenever it's WrestleMania week. And you can't even reward those fans who spend $10,000 to come over here by giving them a WrestleMania and have us go over there and go crazy and have a good time and stuff like that. But, it is what it is. But we see that this feud is not over. It's going to happen again over in October. And we're going to see Goldberg become champion and ride off to the sunset until he loses it at the Royal Rumble to whoever it is at that time. So then we get to the main event, the finale. Roman Reigns, the Tribal Chief, versus John Cena with his Super Mario Brothers shirt. And then the commentators started saying that this is the greatest main event in WWE history. And I knew off the top of my head that that was, as they say, cap. I knew that was a damn lie because I'm like, excuse me, the greatest main event in WWE history? I can see you saying that, it's a hype main event, but the greatest main event in WWE history? And I was like, okay, that's a slap in the face to a lot of these matches that y'all had in the main event. Like, for example, the Mega Powers versus the Mega Bucks with Jesse Ventura as special guest referee. What else it was? British Bulldog versus Bret Hart, that was hype for what it was, but, as far as with the backstory and everything like that, it's a bit of a different story. Just like Stone Cold versus The Undertaker. We had Undertaker versus Bret Hart with Shawn Michaels as special guest referee. The Rock versus Kurt Angle versus Triple H in a triple threat match. The Rock versus Brock Lesnar. He Who Should Not Be Named versus Randy Orton. Hulk Hogan versus Shawn Michaels. It's like there's matches that was main event that, yeah. So it's like there's matches in the main event that was like really up there. Brock Lesnar versus Seth Rollins. Like, I don't think that was the best main event in WWE history. I mean, if you go for as far as hype, yeah, but you had the first SummerSlam event was the Mega Powers, versus Ted DiBiase squad. So, I really like to argue that point. So this match, it was a very slow start. Then things started to pick up. John Cena, of course, trying to get the 3 seconds. He did the attitude adjustment a couple of times. He did it through the table. He did it off the second rope, and then Reigns had kicked out every single time. Cena tried to do Roman Reigns' move at a certain point. And, I picked for Roman Reigns to win, but I kind of figured that we would, bring in the fact that Big E had the briefcase. Maybe if they want John Cena to get his 17th win, that he would win and then get cashed on. But then I had the feeling that might not happen because I saw on John Cena's shirt that it was showing the 16 title matches. And I'm like, well, you wouldn't make a shirt of his 16 title matches and then go and sell it in the NFT for $500 if he was going to win 17. But yeah, it was a lot of back and forth exchange between these two. We had Roman Reigns do the spear. 1, 2, 3 win. The tribal chief retains, which I was slightly shocked about. I even though, like I said, I picked Roman Reigns to win, but I had a slight feeling that John Cena was going to take it. But yeah, Roman Reigns wins the title. So I'm like, okay, that was somewhat expected, but wasn't exactly expected. It was a good match between them two. It really was. The fans got into it a lot. Of course, John Cena went to do the 5-knuckle shuffle. And then he got pulled into the guillotine, but then Cena was able to do the 5-knuckle shuffle again. But anyway, who cares? All that matters is what happened at the end, right? Once the music hits, next thing you know, here he comes, Brock Lesnar, looking like he stepped out of the damn wilderness with the man bun. People were calling it the onion bun. And the beard looking motherfucking bigger than he left. And I immediately said, oh, Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman looked like he saw a ghost. He was standing next to Roman Reigns, but I guess now that makes Brock Lesnar a face? I don't know how to feel about that. Like, I don't know how we're going to do Brock Lesnar as a face. Unless he's like going to be like a tweener or something like that, or he's a heel that we just cheer for or something like that. But WWE really likes to do their heels versus face, their heel versus face stories. So I'm like, okay, Brock Lesnar's going to be a face, which means he's going to cut his own promo. But Paul Heyman looking like the wife that got caught with her, that got caught in the affair. I'm like, Paul, you're going to have to choose your man. A lot of people was making comparisons there's a song that R. Kelly did with the Isley Brothers and Shantae Moore. If you check out that video of when Shantae Moore got caught in bed and you see her like, baby, wait, let me explain. That's exactly what happened with Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman's just looking like, caught in the affair. So, and I mentioned, something like that may happen, that if Brock Lesnar with the return and he returns to SmackDown, it's going to be, who's Paul Heyman going to choose? So are we going to do like Paul Heyman on a pole match that really didn't come out right, but let's continue on? Or maybe sort of like what Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio did, where it's, whoever wins get custody of Paul Heyman. Or we can do, Paul Heyman in a cage match. That happened before. We can do it again. Whoever wins gets Paul Heyman in the cage. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I guess this is where the tribal chief ends with Wilderness Brock Lesnar. I feel like I got to give a better nickname than that. But yeah, it was very weird. But I was like, okay, that is the response that we get for CM Punk coming. We get Brock Lesnar and Becky Lynch back, which is kind of what a lot of people kind of figured. I figured that is what was going to happen, that we would get those two back, and that's what happened. So now we got to see what happens on SmackDown. First of all, if I am the USA Network, I would be livid with WWE, because you get the two big name returns and they're both going to Fox. This is what happens when you sleep with two people at the same time. Like, you can't treat them both the same. USA is going to be very pissed off that they get Goldberg, where Fox is running along the fields of flowers with Becky Lynch and Brock Lesnar. So a lot of people's going to obviously tune in to SmackDown more than they would tune in to Raw. So, Oh, no, actually, no. Raw got Logan Paul, even though the fans booed him like crazy. I guess that was the answer to USA Network. We'll give you guys Logan Paul. I know you're not getting Brock Lesnar and Becky Lynch every week, but you got Logan Paul for one segment for 1 week on top of that. So, poor USA Network. They've been with WWE for so many years, through thick and thin, and here comes young Fox coming in and taking the true A show. Becky Lynch, Brock Lesnar, Edge, Cena. It's a lot. Vince got a lot of explaining to do to those network execs, so we'll see what happens. We already seen the fallout of SummerSlam with Raw, and so now we got to see what happens with SmackDown. So going into NXT TakeOver, this was a pretty good show. Of course, like I always say, NXT TakeOvers is a good show. There may be a few things that's just some matches that really aren't up to the top, but overall TakeOver is a pretty good show. So starting off, I didn't see the pre-show match. I saw that it was Ridge Holland versus Trey Baxter. And I saw that I read that Holland had beat Trey Baxter, but I didn't see it. I don't really tune into the pre-show matches like that anymore. So the first match was for the $1 Million Championship, LA Knight versus Cameron Grimes. If Cameron Grimes loses, Ted DiBiase will also be the butler of LA Knight. The crowd was completely behind Cameron Grimes. This match, it was pretty good. We saw, who was it that got busted open? I forgot who got busted open. I think it was LA Knight that got busted open. It was LA Knight who got busted open. I think it was like a crossbody or something like that Cameron Grimes did to LA Knight, and he got busted open. And he kept going, which is props to him. But But the crowd was completely split between Cameron Grimes and LA Knight, which goes to show, both men are really good in the ring. And we had Ted DiBiase, who was ringside in the corner of Cameron Grimes. And I was like, either way, it would have led to something interesting. Because if Cameron Grimes wins, he gets the $1 million championship. And, he would kind of get that, bit of a rub from Ted DiBiase. However, if Cameron Grimes was to lose, I would have been interested in the vignettes with Ted DiBiase becoming LA Knight's butler. But, this match went back and forth and everything like that. We saw Cameron Grimes do the $1 Million Dream, and then LA Knight ended up on the outside, Ted DiBiase showing everyone how it's done. And then he even helped Cameron Grimes win by giving Cameron Grimes the title. And I think Cameron Grimes hit LA Knight with the title, if I'm not mistaken. And then Cameron Grimes set up the cave-in to win. This was a really good match. I would still say the ladder match between them two was the best match in the series, but I would say this one is right up there with them. I would say this is right up there with them. But afterwards, I think it was on NXT Live, or it may have been, it was shown on NXT Live, or it may have been shown here. Eventually, Ted DiBiase gives Cameron Grimes a replica, and then he rides off into the sunset, which I was slightly disappointed about. I thought that Ted DiBiase and Cameron Grimes would at least be around each other a little bit more. But I'm completely fine. Cameron Grimes is over as all hell, so I don't think that he's going to suffer by not having Ted DiBiase by his side. Next up, we had Rachel Gonzalez versus Dakota Kai. This match was, a lot of back and forth action and everything like that. I thought that Dakota Kai would win this match somehow. I figured that she would probably cheat or something like that. There were some parts of this match where it wasn't exactly smooth. And I don't know, Raquel Gonzalez has been so dominant. It was who's going to take the damn title off of her? There was a spot where there was a missed kick from Dakota Kai, I believe. And in the end, Raquel Gonzalez had won the match, which I was slightly surprised about. Like I said, I thought Dakota Kai would win, by cheating or something like that. And then, kind of get the feud between them two to continue. So once Dakota Kai got pinned, I was like, okay, well, who's next after that? And out comes Kaylee Ray. And I like Kaylee Ray. She's from NXT UK. She was the former women's the NXT UK women's champion. And so I'm like, okay, this is going to be pretty cool. And we'll see if they're either going to have her just let her take the title off of Raquel Gonzalez, or if she's going to become another victim. And then comes the match of the night. Walter versus Ilja Dragunov. This match was very hard-hitting. And, and it was, I think it was Dave Meltzer or something like that wanted to give it 5 stars, but couldn't because it was so brutal. And it's this match wasn't, it was dangerous, all that stuff. And I'm like, dude, have you seen other matches? This match was hard hitting. Yes. Dragunov, bleeding on the chest and stuff like that from getting slapped in the chest by Walter so many times. But I've seen matches where I cringed, or I go, oh, you're going slightly too far. Come on, have you not seen the Hell in a Cell match with Mankind versus The Undertaker? this wasn't on that type of level of dangerous and cringing and like, oh my God, it's so hard hitting. This match was so good. As it wasn't really like, there wasn't a story being told. It was just two men who just kind of wanted to destroy each other, just to show who is, the dominant one, who is, the number one guy in NXT UK. My goodness, Dragunov, like, he took a lot of damn punishment, and I applaud him for that. But yeah, he chopped Walter. I think Walter like chopped Dragunov in the back of his head or something like that. Walter doing like this damn, like a hard ass power bomb and everything like that. It did start off pretty slow with the submissions and a lot of holds and stuff like that starting out. But this was a great match. I'm very surprised that Walter tapped. I would have thought that Dragunov would have won by pinfall. But the fact that Walter tapped, it really, gives Dragunov like another notch on the win, because he got, the most dominant champion in NXT UK history to tap. And this match is definitely a match of the year candidate. I can't really think of other matches right now that tops this one. But however, it is August. We still got a lot of time left. We shall see if there's any more matches that's going to come from this one. Then we get to Kyle O'Reilly versus Adam Cole. There was a very good video package to display the feud between these two. Of course, with the 3 matches, the first one being a straight wrestling match, second one's a street fight, third one's a cage match. Of course, we all knew that it would go to the third fall. I don't think there really has been a 2 out of 3 falls where the person won the first 2 matches and you didn't even really get to see the third one, especially when they have different stipulations. The first match ended very quickly. It was a pin out of nowhere. Adam Cole giving a meme-worthy look, looking shocked as all hell. Then came the street fight, which of course Adam Cole dominated in. There was the spot where Kyle O'Reilly gave Adam Cole a drop kick while Adam Cole was sitting in the chair with a trash can on his head. And so Adam Cole won the second match, of course. And then we get to the third match with the cage and, the men still battering each other and, taking hits and stuff. And there was a spot during the cage match where Adam Cole was climbing the cage. He could have easily climbed up over the cage and, won. But instead he turned around and did a Panama Sunrise off of the top rope. Towards the end of the match, Adam Cole had handcuffed Kyle O'Reilly and started super kicking him, which a good super kick with a nice thigh slap. I love that. I love me a good thigh slap. But yeah, he started to really super kick Kyle O'Reilly in the head. Kyle selling an injury to the ribs and stuff like that. And then when Adam Cole went to do the third super kick, Kyle O'Reilly grabbed his leg and does a heel lock. And then you see Adam Cole struggle a little bit. And then he taps. And I'm like, that was very weird. And I say it was very weird because Kyle O'Reilly didn't really work on Adam Cole's leg during most of the match. Normally when you are leading to a submission match or something like that, you start to do damage to a limb, or, you really start beating down the person to the point that, you're wearing them down. And then on top of that, Adam Cole really didn't do that much of a struggle before he tapped. It was very anticlimactic. For us to go through this match for this long with the 3 falls and everything like that, and then for it to end that way, it's just meh, it really takes it out. We all knew that Kyle O'Reilly was going to win because Adam Cole was either going to show up on Raw, SmackDown, or he's going to leave the company. But I really didn't expect him to win that way. Now, apparently he's still with the company. He They advertised that he's supposed to do a toy reveal with Johnny Gargano, and it was supposed to happen on Thursday. People are saying his contract is up Friday or something like that. But who knows? We don't know until he shows up wherever he shows up. And like I said before, he mentioned that nothing is going to happen to his Twitch channel. So he's either going to stay in WWE with his Twitch channel. And if he does, there's a lot of people in WWE should be completely upset about that. That it was all this crap about them having Twitch channels. And then Adam Cole gets to keep his channel. Not only gets to keep his channel, but gets paid more for it. So if he does stay in WWE and gets to keep his channel, it's going to be a lot of people who's going to be upset about that. So then we get to the main event, Karrion Kross versus Samoa Joe. The fact that Karrion Kross already went up to the main roster and lost, it kind of like took away the magic of, Samoa Joe winning the title. And so I wasn't really into this match as much as I should have been because the magic was taken away. And then on top of that, Scarlett was nowhere to be found. She wasn't even at the she didn't even do the entrance with Karrion Kross, which is very weird without her. He's just kind of like just standing there. And I don't know, because the attention's on him, it's very weird. He's standing, he's just walking down, he kind of like nods his head and stuff like that. Like, it definitely reminds me of a WWE 2K entrance or something, custom entrance or something like that. But this match was fine. Joe looked pretty good. But like I said, the fact that Karrion Kross lost on Raw to Jeff Hardy the way that he did, and then lost again, and it just kind of like took the magic away. Like, for Karrion Kross to be so dominant, and then he loses like that, it's like, well, okay, when Samoa Joe goes to beat him, it's just like, it's whatever, because he already lost. So but Joe winning the title, we knew that was going to happen because Karrion Kross is going to go up to the main roster. Bit of a shame though that Karrion Kross, the send off. First of all, I do not like that. What is it, Capitol Wrestling Center? I don't know if the fans that are there are actual fans or if it's people from the PC Center or whatever it is that they're at. Because after the match, cameras are off and everything. Normally, this is a send-off. You're supposed to clap for the person, wish them luck on the main roster. But instead, the fans were sitting there chanting Hardy at him. And I'm like, you really don't have to play up to the storylines, people. The cameras aren't rolling. You can applaud the guy, wish him luck. But it is what it is. So I really didn't watch Raw all like that. I do know that Eva Marie had attacked Doudrop backstage. We also, I saw what the hell Karrion Kross had looked like. I don't know what it is with, the mask. Like, he definitely looked like they were trying to recreate the Demolition look. Because he had on the same mask that they wore in the getup. And I'm like, I don't know if we're just like stuck in the 80s or 90s or something like that, or or there's just like something weird going on with putting people in masks. But yeah, poor Karrion Kross. And it's one of the things that I get like slightly upset about. It's like, you have talent, but unfortunately, because you're like, it's such this stubbornness with the creativity when it comes to NXT talent that comes up on the main roster. That your casual crowd does not watch NXT, so they have no idea who Karrion Kross is. And, if you want someone like Karrion Kross or Rhea Ripley or any of these young NXT stars to become the new generation to carry on with your company, You know, presentation and first impressions is everything. You know, I don't see it. I don't see how putting Karrion Kross in the Demolition cosplay is going to do anything for the casual crowd. It already leaves a bad taste in their mouth because he done come up and faced Jeff Hardy and lost. And then he apparently was supposed to lose again to Jeff Hardy, but then he started fighting Keith Lee again. And it's like, you're really not doing yourself a favor by doing this to your own talent. And that's why I say, no. AEW is not competition to WWE because WWE is competition to WWE. NXT is the competition in the eyes of WWE. That's why, you know, when they bring up talent, they change names, they change gimmicks, they put masks on them, and make them do very weird stuff. And that's why, you know, if this rumor is true that they're doing this whole restructuring of NXT, that you know, it's not going to be small guys, it's not going to be anyone over the age of 30 or whatever it is that it was. It's just like, you know, it is what it is. We also saw too that Alexa Bliss is stepping up to go against Charlotte Flair. So I guess that's when Lily is going to appear in human form or whatever it is. And then we had Nikki A.S.H and Rhea Ripley going against Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. And this is why I kind of got confused with Nikki A.S.H, because Nikki A.S.H came out smiling and hopping around, stuff like that. Maybe I missed the promo of her explaining why she is like so hype after losing her title and, you know, getting tapped out. But, you know, I guess, you know, optimism is everything. But I really don't get why she's like so totally happy after she done lost her title. I know that Logan Paul had appeared on Moist TV. I know he appeared on there. The crowd like booed him like crazy. And now we got the split of John Morrison versus The Miz. I'm hoping that we get John Morrison, you know, to have him drop this Johnny Drip Drip Moist, the most. Oh, I can't. I hope they just drop that whole gimmick and we get a little bit of seriousness with the feud between John Morrison and The Miz. Because it could definitely be something if they actually just let it happen and not like have them like spray each other with water or something like that. That's pretty much all that I saw with it's pretty much all that I saw on Raw. You know, it is what it is as far as with WWE. But I wish both companies luck. Like I said, whenever one company step up and the other company decides to eventually step up, we all win in the end. We all do. I'm just really hoping that WE just get their shit together and you know, at least give some type of creative control to the wrestlers. Because like I said, when you believe in your own gimmick, it comes across a lot better on TV. But when they give you something and you don't like it and you don't know how to really work with it and it's not connecting to you, it's not going to connect with the fans either. So I guess, you know, hopefully Karrion Kross makes the most of his new Demolition cosplay, but I don't really see it happening. But that's it for the WrestleBread podcast. Thank you so much for listening. It's been a crazy weekend and it's a lot more coming to go. We have the coming return of Daniel Bryan. We also have, you know, the lead up to All Out, the fallout on SummerSlam, the fallout from SummerSlam on SmackDown as well. And we also got Empower that is coming up too, that I will be taking a look at the end of the night. The end of the month. Let me give some shout outs. Shout out to Julianne Rob Bass from Wrestling Court Podcast and AttorneyMinds.com. Keita and Jay from the Keita and Jay Show. Chris and Keita from We Talk Next Podcast, which is featured on the Keita and Jay show. Nando and Larry from Half K Podcast. Devin and Hafiz from Clark Street Wrestling. Also, shout out to Straight Talk Wrestling, Circle of Debate. I'm missing another one. Oh my gosh. Straight Talk Wrestling, Circle of Debate, and Top Rope Wrestling Podcast as well. Coming up next week, just going to be reviewing more of, the weekly shows of SmackDown, Raw, Rampage, Dynamite as well. NXT too. It's a lot of wrestling now that's coming up. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at JDC137. That's JAYDEEC137. You can also follow the podcast on Twitter at WrestleBread. Click the link in the bio to find the podcast on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube as well. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram as well. And I'm starting a Twitch channel. I'm going to be playing video games and talking, Star Wars and wrestling and football and all that stuff. Be sure you can find that on Twitch at GDC137 as well. It's all the same. Make it very easy for you to find me. But be sure to leave a review. Let me know your thoughts on SummerSlam and NXT TakeOver. And where are we going from here? And do you have your expectations set too high for AEW? Did you forget that it's only a 2-year company and you think that the return of CM Punk is going to wave a magical wand over everything? Do you think that's the same thing with Becky Lynch and Brock Lesnar? That's going to be a little wand. Well, apparently on SummerSlam, they showed us that's not the case. Because they definitely screwed up the booking of Becky Lynch there. But yeah, it is what it is. Let's just have fun with it. I can't even be, I try not to be mad, but sometimes it happens. But I'm just going to let things play out. Hopefully SmackDown gives us an answer for everything. But thank you so much for listening, especially if you're listening live. And until next time, guys, peace.